what we can do now to actually change this.
I want to thank Boydie for that introduction. I'm going to sit down as opposed to her. I'm just going to wing it. Because look, this play, Passover, by the playwright Antoinette Wandu, showing at Steppenwolf. Now, this is an important development for a few reasons. One, this play puts young black people on the stage, and it does it at a major theater, So this is important. This isn't like a little neighborhood production off to the side, but right out in front of society. And we think it's important, especially important, because it puts the reality that's faced by millions of young black people here in this country right up on stage for everybody to see. Moses and Keach, the two young black men in this play, they're like a lot of young black people in this country, weighed down by forces way beyond their control, wanting to break free from the grip of these forces, these larger forces, wanting to pass over, to borrow from the play's title, but also fearful of what they would confront if they were to do that. And this is what's grappled with throughout this play. We've got a review of this play, which is available in the back, which leads off with check it out, because we thought people needed to see this. You go to this play and you watch these two young black men fighting with a future of hopelessness, seemingly locking them into this. But then in the midst of that, not only wanting to get out, right in the midst of it, trying to carve out some room to be somebody, to see some humanity and some joy, even in the midst of the bleak situation that they've been confronted with. And see, this is a reality that is hidden from much of society. Especially white people don't get this reality, but a lot of people who aren't white don't get it either. And this is important, and it's a part of what's wrong with the society, but also what needs to be transformed. Because the conditions that Moses and Keach are up against are not of their own making. They didn't create these situations. They didn't segregate themselves off into torn up communities with few legitimate ways to survive and raise families. They didn't gear the educational system to fail them. They don't have the police patrolling their communities like an occupying army with license to beat them down, to arrest them, and even to kill them off. This is something that the system, this capitalist imperialist system, has done. And the rulers of that system rely on the fact that much of society, in fact, most of society, is ignorant of these conditions, which gives those rulers a free hand to enforce draconian measures to keep down and suppress a section of society that they fear, because they remember what young black people did in the 1960s. Actually, back when I was a young black person, it was actually black people standing up, refusing to accept any longer the conditions that were forced down, that opened things up for radical and revolutionary resistance and struggle to rock this whole system back on its heels. They don't want to see that happen again. They want to keep that section of society suppressed. And as long as they can keep much of society ignorant to the conditions that are being forced on them, they have a free hand to do that and can even gather significant public support in doing it. So this is something that needs to be broken through. And Boydie mentioned the Revolution Summer Project, which I'm also a part of. It has brought volunteers here to Chicago to connect up with the Revolution Club Chicago and to go into neighborhoods on the south side and on the west side with a message that's concentrated in a declaration that we also have on the back about this being a different kind of summer in Chicago. The Revolution Club declares, this summer in Chicago will not be a bloodbath of people killing each other. This summer will not be free rein for police to murder and terrorize black and brown people. This summer we get organized for revolution to emancipate all of humanity. That's what Revolution Summer Project is out to do. And in doing this work, we meet a lot of young people who share some of the experience that Moses and Keach are up against. People who are weighed down by these larger forces, want to get out but aren't sure they could and fearful of what they'd confront if they did. We fight like hell with these people that you not only can get out, but that you have to get out. Because if you don't get out of what you're into, the killings will continue. And those killings will be seized on by the fascist Trump-Pence regime to bring a reign of terror down on top of the hell that people are already suffering. So that's what the Revolution Summer Project is doing. And look, everybody who wants to see these killings stop needs to check this project out and support it. But having this play is actually bringing some of those conditions before the broader society. And that is really very important, that people get to see this, get confronted by it, and, look, frankly, get unsettled by it. You know, because like yesterday, I went to the play a second time to be part of a talkback, because they said you can come to the talkback even if you don't see the play that day. So I came, and I was there with maybe half a dozen other people, and a comment that several of them made was how unsettling the play was. How it really, like, threw them to be looking at this and seeing it go down. And then it threw them even more to see how the playwright ended it, because they were thinking, oh, she's going to give it a happy ending. No, there is not yet a happy ending to this situation. And frankly, it's up to people like us and many more people to write that happy ending. And she was not going to force it on that situation. And it's not surprising that there were sharply negative reviews of this, which I'll come back to. But I want to read something from Bob Levesque, the leader of the Revolutionary Communist Party. He's written, 3 things have to happen in order for there to be real and lasting change. 1, people have to fully confront the actual history of this country and its role in the world up to today and the terrible consequences of this. People have to dig seriously and scientifically into how this system of capitalism, imperialism actually works and what this actually causes in the world. And 3, people have to look deeply into the solution to all of this. And I want to talk a bit about the role of the arts and artists in relation to this process of people confronting the actual history of this country from way back right up to today and the role that it's playing in the world. Because look, artists aren't and should not be bound by, well, all they can do is run back to people what they already see. Artists should come from reality, but go beyond reality. Concentrate that reality. Make it higher than life. And then put that before people. They can put visions of a different kind of future, or they can take the reality and sharply concentrate it and put it before people and have them grapple with that. And see, that is what this artist does. She takes the reality faced by Black people. She's actually a young Black person herself. And she felt like, I want to put this before people. And she worked on putting this play together. And then she fought to have it staged, put on a prominent stage, one that would put it before society. And then once she did that, I talked with her. She actually came through the town, and after I saw the play, I got a chance to talk with her. And she said, I actually didn't have the ending that the play has. I had a different ending. And we all talked about it, and especially the two actors who played Moses and Keach didn't like the ending. And so they worked on the ending, and they came up with another one, and then another one, and then a fourth one. And the ending that the play actually has is the fourth ending. And she said, I'm very satisfied with it. And I'm really glad that people participated in a collective process to try to figure out how to drive home what was being spoken to here. And see, that's what she did here. And like I said, not surprising that she got negative reviews. I'm not going to mainly talk about that, but if people want to get into it, we can in the discussion. But one reviewer in particular decided that, oh, well, this play was well done artistically, but the playwright's message in it was wrong-headed and self-defeating because it stereotyped white cops and it avoided the problem of black people killing other black people, which this reviewer felt like was the real problem. All I really want to say on that is the reviewer was wrong and wrong. I mean, and look, last couple weeks, we have seen cops who murdered black people walk out of court scot-free. And when I say seen, I mean seen. Not just that we saw the verdict, but we actually saw the murders because they were caught on videotape. Philando Castile, Sylville Smith, Samuel Dubose. In each case, there was a video that showed the cops carrying out these murders. And in each case, a court put its stamp of approval and exonerated the murdering cops and let them walk free. And see, beyond the killer cops themselves, they're all the other cops, the ones who file false reports, who make evidence disappear, who maintain a blue wall of silence. So don't tell me this play stereotypes cops. This play takes a cancerous problem in this society, concentrates it, makes it higher than life, and puts it before you and says, look at this reality and deal with it and decide where you stand in relation to it. Again, a very fine thing for an artist to do. And this playwright, Antoinette Wandu, should be saluted for having done that. And on this thing of it doesn't deal with the problem of black people killing other black people. Well, first off, the playwright actually, she sets it, it works for Chicago, but it also works everywhere across this country that you've got black people. She wasn't actually doing a Chicago-themed play. But the question of, it doesn't ignore the question of violence among black people. But what if it did? I mean, look, that would be like saying to a doctor who throws herself into working on cancer to walk up to her and say, why aren't you doing more about heart disease? Real problem, does need to be dealt with, but it's not the same problem. And see, people who throw up when police get away with murder want to throw up, well, black people kill each other too. What they're really saying is, ignore the fact that these agents of the state are out here committing murder and focus on what black people are doing to each other in order to blame black people for it. And it's, I could actually throw in a third wrong there, because when we look at these killings among black people, the system itself is responsible for this. And this is something that I've worked on and spoken to quite a bit. I'm not going to take this discussion off into that, but we can get into that in the discussion period as well. So I guess what I want to wind this up with is this play, I'll go back to where I started. This play takes the reality faced by far too many young black people, puts it on the stage, and on the stage in a major theater in a way that much of society has had to confront this, has had to grapple with this. And that's a very fine and important thing. It's especially fine and important to me because I'm coming from a thing of wanting a whole different world. And part of the process of bringing a whole different world into being is having a different culture. And I had wanted to read this quote from Bob Avakian about culture. I was actually thinking about doing it earlier, but I'll do it right now, and then we can start talking. This is from Basics, a book of the quotations and short essays from the writings of Bob Avakian, the leader of the Revolutionary Communist Party. And this is quote number 8 in chapter 2. Let's imagine if we had a whole different art and culture. Come on, enough of this bitches and hoes and SWAT teams kicking down doors. Enough of this get low bullshit. And how come it's always the women that have to get low? We already have a situation where the masses of women and the masses of people are pushed down and held down low enough already. It's time for us to get up and get on up. Imagine if we had a society where there was culture. Yes, it was lively and full of creativity and energy, and yes, rhythm and excitement, but at the same time, instead of degrading people, lifted us up. Imagine if it gave us a vision and a reality of what it means to make a whole different society and a whole different kind of world. Imagine if it laid out the problems for people in making this kind of world and challenged them to take up these problems. Imagine if art and culture too, movies, songs, television, everything, challenged people to think critically, to look at things differently, to see things in a different light, but all pointing toward how we can make a better world. Imagine if the people who created art and culture were not just a handful of people, but also the masses of people, all of them, with all their creative energy unleashed, and the time were made for them to do that, and for them to join with people who are more full-time workers and creators in the realm of art and culture to bring forward something new that would challenge people, that would make them think in different ways, that would make them be able to see things critically and from a different angle, and would help them to be uplifted and help them to see their unity with each other and with people throughout the world, and putting an end to all the horrors that we're taught are just the natural order of things. Imagine all of that. Because look, one of the things that we're up against in trying to transform this world is that too many people believe that the way things are is the only way they can be. They think that these conditions that exist right now of necessity are permanent conditions. And we gotta break people out of that. We gotta get them to imagine a different way that things could be, and then to act to bring that different reality that they've imagined into being. And that's something that I've actually been doing my whole life. Well, not my whole life. Back when I was 5 years old, I wasn't doing it. But most of my adult life, I became a revolutionary back in the 1960s and 70s. From then, I've been going on a different way the world could be and working to bring that into being. And that has a lot to do with the reason that I value art like this play that Antoinette and Wandu has done. Because, look, it helps people to see the actual horrors of this world in a way that then you begin to think about, we got to do something about this. With that, I want to open it up, and I'd like us to talk about this play. I think, well, actually, I want us to talk about this play. And people who've seen it can talk from that perspective. People who haven't seen it can talk from the perspective of, well, I haven't seen it yet because it's got 6 more days that it's running, so you can get down there and see it. And let's try to learn about this. So with that, I just want to open it up.